Hey, I'm GT, and welcome to the Stuff You Should Think About podcast, where I take interesting things you should think about and I break them down in just a few minutes. Hey, in today's episode, we'll discuss how population works. Population dynamics are driven by four core factors: birth rates, death rates, immigration, and immigration. When births and immigration exceed deaths and immigration, a population grows. Conversely, it shrinks when departures and death outpace arrivals and births. Population dynamics. The study of how and why populations change over time comes down to a simple interplay between births, deaths, and migration. And understanding it means looking at demographic data, biological limits, and the social and economic forces that push populations up or down. At the core is the demographic balancing equation, which says population change is simply births minus deaths plus net migration. Birth rates and death rates determine natural increase, while migration reflects how many people move in or out of a region. When births exceed deaths, populations grow. When deaths exceed births, they shrink. And when migration is positive or negative, it can amplify or counteract those trends. To know whether a population is truly growing or declining, demographers focus on fertility metrics rather than raw birth counts. The total fertility rate, or TFR, measures how many children the average woman has over her lifetime and replacement level fertility. About 2.1 children per woman is the threshold needed for a population to sustain itself without immigration. Globally, TFR has been falling for decades, dropping from around 5 children per woman in the 1950s to roughly 2.3 today. With many developed nations far below replacement level, including South Korea, Japan, Italy, and China, human populations also tend to follow a predictable demographic transition as countries industrialize. In pre industrial societies, both birth and death rates are high, keeping population growth slow. As countries begin to industrialize, death rates fall sharply thanks to medicine, sanitation, and stable food supplies, while birth rates remain high, causing explosive growth. Later, as urbanization increases and the cost of raising children rises, birth rates began to fall, slowing growth. Eventually, in post industrial societies, both birth and death rates stabilize at low levels, and in some places, fertility drops so far below replacement that populations begin to decline outright, as seen in Japan and Germany. Even when fertility drops to replacement level, populations don't stop growing immediately because of population momentum. If a country has a large number of young people entering their reproductive years, the sheer size of that cohort ensures that births will continue to outpace deaths for decades. Even if families are smaller than in previous generations, age structure alone can keep a population growing long after fertility has stabilized. Mortality plays its own role in shaping population size. Life expectancy has risen dramatically over the past century, from about 46 years in 1950 to over 73 years today, thanks to antibiotics, vaccines, clean water, and public health systems. Infant mortality has fallen as well, and historically, high infant mortality pushed families to have more children as insurance. As infant mortality drops, families naturally shift toward having fewer children, which is one of the strongest drivers of declining fertility worldwide. Right now, the global population has passed 8 billion. And although it's still growing, the pace has slowed significantly from its peak in the late 1960s. Today, the global growth rate sits around 0.9% per year. United Nations projections suggest the world population will peak at about 10.4 billion in the 2080s and then stabilize. Most of that future growth will come from a small number of developing nations, while roughly 2/3 of the world already lives where fertility is below replacement level. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Stuff You Should Think About. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a comment wherever you listen to your podcast. And don't forget to follow the podcast. It really helps the podcast grow.